just learning names. What's
I
your
am Marissa Amaturo, so first one.
first one? Thank you. Okay. So let's get started. I was going around trying to learn names. I'll do that a couple of times, but really I'll learn their names mostly when the lab starts because I'll have fewer groups to work with. But I might have missed few coming in. Do we have Sophia Williams? Here you are. I thought I just checked your name, didn't I? No. Okay. Megan? Do we have a Megan? Hi, Megan. We have Billy. I saw Billy. Alexander? Do we have Alexander? No? And do we have Makia? There she is. Okay. Great. I'll hand this over to you. If a gentleman walks in, he must be Alexander. Okay. So welcome to the first lecture in food analysis. Of course, I'll start with introductions and go over some Moodle tips and might have time to start the actual introduction, the first chapter of your textbook. So first of all, I'm Pam. I'm Pam Ismail. I go by Pam, not Dr. Ismail. I'm not too formal. So, and I'll be teaching most of the lectures. You will have probably 2 guest lectures, Gary Nexus for GC and mass spectrometry, and Dr. Labuza for water and water activity. Let's start here. I'll just flip to the PowerPoint, if I can find it. Why? Okay, the computer doesn't want to respond. That's not a good start. There. So first of all, you have a bunch of handouts, but I didn't print any, of course. They're all on Moodle. So I will navigate through Moodle to help you find what you need for the class. So I'm going to back out again and go to the Moodle. Okay, so of course there's the general page, which is description of the course. But if you scroll down, you will find at the top, before you start the different weeks, you will find important folders. So are you Alexander? Hi. That's okay. Okay, so of course the first folder is where you're going to find your syllabus, schedule, and student learning outcomes. So if we go to the schedule, I have it open. I'll just open it really quick here. Course schedule. There are important dates that I would like you to watch out for. Not only I give you the title of every lecture or the topic of every lecture, but there is also dates for quizzes, for example, or exams. And for an important date, the first important date you have is September 18 for selection of prepared product. You have a project, which is a semester-long project, and this is the first due date for the first assignment for that project. So I'll talk about that a little later. But the schedule helps you not only to know the topic of the particular date, but also due dates and quizzes and exams and such. Okay, so looking at the syllabus, So I'll let you navigate through the syllabus. There are a lot of information, but it's all good for you to look at. You'll notice here that I have office hours. I know it might not work for everybody, 8 to 10. I'll be available in my office, but if it doesn't work for you, you are welcome to have an appointment with me. If you use Google Calendar, that will be the easiest way. You can access my Google Calendar, put yourself on my calendar. Otherwise, you can email me and we can work something out. I want to introduce key people that you will see a lot and work with a lot. So we have Cindy Gallagher. She's way in the back. Cindy will be is our lab coordinator, and she'll be there for every lab except this Monday. She won't be here this Monday, but she coordinates the labs and facilitates the success of our labs. Anyway, and then we have teaching assistants. We have a fourth time returning teaching assistant. She can teach the class, basically, when I retire. Maybe I retire next year. Chelsea's a PhD student, and she's a returning TA, wonderful teaching assistant. You will enjoy her. Also, we have a returning TA, Claire. This is her second time, and she also took the class here in this classroom. So technically, this is her third time knowing about food analysis. She's very knowledgeable, and she'll be very helpful. My son Lou is a first-time TA. We're going to abuse and use him quite a bit this semester. First-timer. But also took the class in this classroom about, 3 years ago, my son? With Claire, of course. Yeah. And all of them are my graduate students. So if you ever want to be my graduate student, this is your destiny, TAing food analysis. So you might want to think twice about it before you approach me. Anyway, okay, and then, so please navigate through your syllabus. You'll find a lot of information. As you know already, it's a 4-credit class, so 3 lectures, 1 lab, and in addition to that, it's a writing intensive. It's the only writing intensive in your major, so expect a lot of writing. Well, it's the fun part of the course. Let's leave it at that. Oh, yeah, no. Okay, so there's a lot of information, prerequisite textbooks, where you find the Moodle information and all of that. Lab information, I'll talk more about lab when you have your first lab, so I won't waste time on that right now. And what I wanted you to really look at is the requirement in terms of, or grade distribution. So there's a lot about what it means to be writing intensive, so you can read that, and where you can get help if you need help. But what I wanted to point out is that you have 4 quizzes. They are spaced out throughout the semester. And the quizzes are helpful because instead of having a lot to study for an exam, it kind of gives you bits and pieces. By the time you have the exam, you know most of the material. And they're mostly on a Monday, except for 1 quiz that is on a Wednesday. I like to keep exams and quizzes on a Monday so that you have the weekend to study, but for this particular quiz, it didn't work out timing-wise. So 2 exams, a final exam, and the project, which is has quite a bit of points, and lab reports. You can see lab reports are really heavy. So if you do well in lab reports, but you don't do well on an exam, that's okay. Okay, you will eventually make it up. So lab reports are important. There are pre-lab quizzes, and every Friday I would post, or I already posted the Monday and Wednesday pre-lab quiz. So you will go to the Moodle, you'll find under the lab folder, you'll find the pre-lab quiz. That means you complete it and bring it to the lab in the morning and turn it to your TA. It basically prepares you to the lab, gives you an idea or an incentive to read the lab instruction before coming to the lab so that you know what the lab is about. There is a laboratory notebook that you will maintain, and I'll talk about that more during lab. And of course, I am all for participation, and I reward participation. It's just, I don't like to be the only one talking in the class. It's great to have a discussion. You can answer a question, you can ask a question, you can have a debate. It's all part of participation. And one thing I want to make clear is no question is a dumb question in my books. So do not feel shy, and nobody's going to say, oh, wow, what a bad question that was. It's a question, it's a valid question, so ask it, you get credit for it. Of course, yes. Yes, please bring a lab notebook. There's no specifications. You can get any lab notebook that you're comfortable with. I don't care for what kind. But make sure you have one for next week. So there is a lot about project. I will spend a little bit more time on it, not today, maybe early on Monday, next Monday. But there is a document, I'll show you where on Moodle to find more information about the project. There's a lot of information about labs. I'll show you on Moodle where to find that as well. So let me flip back to Moodle then to navigate through that. Okay, so one more thing is what is SLO, Student Learning Outcomes. So I have a document called SLO. I'll open it here. If you go to that folder, you'll find it there. But this is a very helpful, I believe, document that I've created several years ago, and I update as I see necessary. It's kind of like your study guide for each section. So once you study for a quiz or an exam, and then you go to your student learning outcome and you read these and say, do I know this? Do I know this outcome? Am I comfortable with it? If not, go back and study a little bit more. So it's kind of like a study guide for you. So there is an overall student learning outcome for the entire course. And then for each section, there is a student learning outcome or a bunch of student learning outcomes. So for the first chapters, first 5 chapters that are introductory, and then for the chromatography, for spectroscopy, for chemical characterization, you'll find the SLO for each section. So this is a very good guide. Encourage you to use it or go back to it. Okay, so if you click on lab information, okay, click on lab information. There you go, it's just slow. We'll go over each of these documents in the lab, but here where you will find the lab report format, the grading guide for different types of lab reports, and then references format for lab reports. How do you cite and how do you put references in your reference list? And then some other safety guidelines and sources of errors in the lab. So this is your guide to labs. And then here under project information, like I said, this is a semester-long project, and the sooner you start reading about that, the better it is going to be. I post also example projects from previous years, example summaries from previous year to guide you. And I have this document here, individual project description, is the document for the project with all possible information you need to know. And then how we grade, letter of support for an industry reference, which you would need. And then the outline of the project summary that you would submit. So it gives you an outline of what you need to include. And then the checklist at the end, you check to see if you have completed everything you need to complete. And then reference format, same as lab reports reference format. The first assignment, which is due September 18, is this document here. If you click on it, it will give you a document that you need to fill out, and you need to set up an appointment to meet with me at least for 15 minutes, individual meetings. We'll go through your form that you fill out, which is this one, and then we discuss and select a product to work on for the entire semester. So it's very important that you put yourself on my calendar within the next couple of weeks to get your product selected. The sooner you do that, you get the product you want. The later you are, we run out of products, we run out of industry contacts, it's trouble. So please make sure you do that as soon as you can. Okay, so we'll talk more about the project another time, maybe Monday. Okay, so what I have here is an important document for you, or important folder, which gives you an example of quizzes and exams that were given in the past. So I posted all quizzes and exams that were given last year. So before every quiz or exam, it's good to go and quiz yourself. See how you will do. It could be a good indication of how well you're prepared for the quiz. It's not going to be the same questions, but similar style, similar content, more or less. So these are only the questions. Just a couple of days before the quiz or the exam, I'll post the key. I just want to give you a chance to solve it on your own before putting up the key. But you'll get the key so that you can compare and look for the correct answers. Okay. Other folders that would be important to you, you have textbook study questions. I have all the answer key in my office, but these are the study questions for you to practice. Go in and practice. At the end of every chapter in the textbook, there is a set of study questions, so they're all there. And then after everybody submit lab report, I will post a sample lab report. I may select one of you that did a good job, or I might select an older lab report from previous year to post. Why I do that is to help you with mistakes for future lab reports. So I won't give a sample lab report before you submit it. Doesn't make sense to do that. I will give you the sample after you submit that will help you for the following submission. Okay. Also, I will put a key for lab report questions. So there will be a set of questions that you would answer for every lab report. These questions are important for you to know because some of them come in the quizzes and exams. So I will put a key after you submit your lab reports. And once you take a quiz or exam, I'll post the key after I hand back the quiz and exam. I'll post them here for you to go back and look at your answers or the correct answers. And you'll see there are 15 weeks. So every week you'll have a lecture folder and a lab folder. You'll find the lecture material for the week there and the lab required material for the week as well. So if you look at lab material, you'll find what you need. You need the pre-lab quiz and you need this document. I'm not sure, Chelsea, if we still need this document. That's the baking chocolate reference? No, that's not needed anymore. We don't need it anymore. Ignore it then. Chelsea said ignore it. All you need really is your pre-lab quiz because we have a new 3rd edition lab manual and they updated things in there. We used to provide information that was not sufficient in here, so we used to provide additional information, but the first lab is completely, with few exceptions, we'll tell you about it in lab. So yeah, you don't need that, then you just need the pre-lab quiz. So it's already there. I guess this is Moodle, and what I will also you'll see in Moodle is I record my lecture. So I'm recording right now, so I will post the link to the recorded lecture. I will post it usually in the week where you got that lecture, so it will be here. I do have previous year's recording in case a hiccup happens this year. You'll have a previous one that I will unhide it. All this is hidden, you won't see it. I'll just unhide what you need when you need it. If there are extra credit practice questions, you will see them posted here, and then the key, it will be posted there. There will be a lot of opportunities for extra credits during the semester. Yeah, I think that's it for Moodle. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. Yeah, I think we talked about everything there. I said the lab, we'll talk about it more during lab. And then the project, I'll spend 10 minutes on Monday for the project. Okay. I would like your input on this one. So this is my 10th year teaching this class, right? With the exception of 1 year where I was gone on sabbatical. But I want to know what you heard about this class. Is it hard? Yeah. Wow. Do we all agree on this? Nobody thinks it's easy? Oh, come on. You didn't even take it. How do you know that Claire and Myson and Chelsea are telling the truth? Well, I'm not going to say. I'll let you judge at the end of the semester. Is it haunting? Is it going to haunt you and taunt you? Yes. Mallory, why are you saying no? Yeah, it's going to come in your dreams. Lab report, quiz, exam. Yeah. So unfortunately, it's going to haunt you, but in a good way. Is it challenging? No? Yeah? Yeah. But again, in a good way. Is that wishful thinking of me to say in a good? But I think it's in a good way. It's challenging. It's going to help you with on many different aspects. You're going to notice that this class is really very diverse. One time we talk about fat, the other time we talk about protein, we talk about chromatography, we talk about spectroscopy. The different topics that are covered in this class, I don't think you have as much diversity of topics in different classes, which makes it boring. No. Yeah? That's honest. You know, some topics I can tell you for me are boring, but I'm not going to tell you which topics are boring. You're going to guess from my tone. Sometimes you see me jumping up and down, just being excited, and other times like, oh, I'm yawning. So you can tell which topic is boring for me. But, some people might like it, some people might not. It's a matter of opinion. So you might feel bored the entire semester, or you might be interested 90% of the semester. So we'll see. Useless? No, you're all quiet. What is the politically correct answer? The politically correct answer is no. Nothing in our program for you guys at this point as seniors will be useless. You'll find use for it. You'll learn something out of it. Whether you use it for graduate school or you use it in your future work, you'll find something to take away from this course. Again, wishful thinking. I like to be wishful thinking. All right, so what I have here for you today is a bunch of introduction to what is food analysis and what does it encompass and how do we use it and why we use it. By the way, we are going to record participation as of today, and the wonderful TAs will do that. But if you choose to ask or answer a question, just state your name first, because all of us want to learn your names first. Okay, so what does food analysis include? All of the above? Yeah? Are you confident? Are we going to do microbiological analysis in this class? So is it all of the above still? Yes, it is still all of the above. So it is analyzing everything related to food. But in this class, we're not doing sensory. You have a separate class for that. We're not doing microbiology. There's several classes for that. We're barely going to touch on physical analysis. So it's mostly this. But analysis is all of this, but this class is mostly this. Okay, so when I say food composition, what is meant by food composition? Does anybody know? Of course, you've had food chemistry. Some of you have even chemical reactions out of order. So what do we mean by chemical composition or food composition? Come on, don't be shy. Even if you get wrong answers, it's expected. It's your first lecture. Mallory, we all know your name. She works in our lab. B, C, and D. Okay, Mallory, any opposing or similar answer? Who are you? Where are you? Right. So what did you say? All of the above. I would go with Ryan. It's all the above, and I'll give you examples to all of those. First of all, what's food composition? What do you mean by food composition? Yeah, go ahead. What's your name?
Claire.
Claire.
The macro and micronutrients as well as sensory values.
I will go with your first half of your answer, macro and micronutrients. So macro and micronutrients, fat, protein. Macro is fat, protein, moisture, carbohydrate, fat, protein, moisture, carbohydrate, and ash. And then micronutrients, vitamins, minerals. So that would be your composition. And then you can dissect fat and look at fatty acids composition, cholesterol, triglycerides versus mono and diglycerides, or just the actual fatty acid composition. You can take each component and look more into its composition as well. All right, so we analyze this to meet consumers' demand. What do I mean? Why do we care? Well, consumers want low fat in their product. So I formulated a product, I want to make sure I meet the low fat label. For milk, let's say, low fat is 2% fat, right? So, or skim milk is 0% fat. So I want to make sure that I got that amount of fat in whatever the consumer is looking for in their milk product. Or a consumer doesn't want lactose in their milk. So they're going to say, did they get rid of lactose by hydrolyzing the lactose? Because we are lactose intolerant. So yes, consumer demand is a big component for looking at the composition to meet government requirements. So government requires that you follow certain nutrition label requirement, a certain requirement for claiming a high protein, for example, beverage. What does it take to claim that? Like I said, the example of milk, what does it take to call it skim milk or low-fat milk or low-fat yogurt? What does it take? So yes, and then to determine nutritional benefits, of course, that goes into health claims or even just the simple composition and caloric intake. For quality control, are we producing consistent product each time? Is this product safe? Is it free of contaminants? So every industry and every producer, they care for that their product is consistent, the product is safe, the product is acceptable by the consumer. So all of this requires analysis of composition. So we ask ourselves, why do we need to analyze food? And we look at consumer perspective. So we said we want to do food composition for consumer perspective, but it's not just food composition, it's the entire food analysis spectrum. But why do we care? What's the perspective of consumers? Of course, consumers care for quality. Okay? So they want a good tasting product, they want a healthy product, they want a consistent product. They don't want to buy a breakfast cereal that tastes different every time they get it, for example, or the color is different, or the sugar content is different every time they buy the same cereal. So they're looking for consistent quality, consistently safe and acceptable. Of course, safety, it kind of have its own category, because safety, you don't want foodborne illnesses. You don't want, you need to label allergens, for example. So if I have allergy to soybean, the label must state whether or not there is a chance that this product has soybeans or even processed in a production area where there has been soybeans. So safety to ensure, for example, free of allergen or free of microbes or toxins or contaminants of concern, which we have a whole chapter on contaminants of concern. Consumers are looking for nutrition and health. So are they dieting? So they need low calorie, low fat, low sugar. Are they looking for health, like high calcium intake? Are they looking for fiber, high fiber intake? So what are they looking for in their food product? So let's say there is a health claim that is put on the label, and it's related to coronary heart disease. Which of the following needs to be analyzed? This is an example where food analysis is used for a health claim. In this health claim, in this case, is coronary heart disease. What do we need to analyze in the product? You're thinking? All of the above. And your name again? Sophie? Huh?
Tiffany.
Tiffany. All of the above. Any other answers? Okay, so you tell me what your, huh? Wanting Jiang? Jiang, with a T. We have a twins in the class, and their name only differ with one letter. It's one letter. Okay, what did you say? Yeah. A is correct, but what else? Do we really care about free fatty acids? No, we don't. When do we care about presence of free fatty acids? First of all, do you know what would the free fatty acids present do to the taste? Rancidity. So when we suspect rancidity, and when we suspect hydrolytic rancidity, that means you have lipase that hydrolyzes lipid, then we test for the presence of free fatty acids. That's one type. If you want to test whether your oil has been well refined or is it still crude oil, then you test for free fatty acid content. No, but the presence of free fatty acid, it's not going to impact that unless you have trans fatty acid. Okay. So from a food industry perspective, why do we want to analyze food? Product quality. Every food industry that is in the product, producing products, not ingredients, even ingredients, producing products, they care about their quality being acceptable by the consumers, being consistent, being equal or better than competitors. So in order to do that, they need to make sure and analyze the food to ensure consistency and acceptability of the food quality. I'll give you example actually for each one of those. So during product development, there's a lot of analysis that goes through, and I'll give you an example. And throughout the semester, I'll be giving you a lot of examples. And the quality and product development, I mean, always producing something unique, something not in the market, something to attract more customers, either from a health perspective or from a taste perspective, or for a variety sake perspective. So that means meeting consumers' demand, evaluate new processes, and I'll also give you an example for that. So installing new equipment, changing formulation, how would that impact the final product from not just chemistry, from sensory, from microbiology, from all. And also how would that impact cost and profit. Oftentimes they change processes to make it more efficient, to reduce time, to make it maybe requiring less human interactions, more automated, to make more profit and less cost. But also that will impact the product, so therefore they need to analyze. Solve problems. Oftentimes there is some problem, a complaint by a customer, and they don't know what it is. Or sometimes there is a foreign matter and they will have to do forensics to determine that. And trust me, there is something called food forensics. And actually your book, your new book, if you get the 5th edition, which I highly recommend, you have a whole chapter on food forensics, which is investigating foreign matter and what are the steps that you would take to identify an unknown in your food, or why that unknown got into your food and how. Of course, competition. General Mills launched a new cereal. Kellogg's is going to compete. We need to know what that cereal is made up of. We need to formulate something similar or better. And during all of this processes, we have to keep government regulations in mind. So there are regulations on labeling, there are regulations on standard of identity of a product, there are regulations on what you can claim in terms of health claims. So there are regulations in terms of safety, HACCP, for example. So everything that the industry does has to follow government regulations. So here are a bunch of examples where I would like to hear from you. Um, so, product development. As a food scientist in the R&D department, you were asked by the management to replace butter with vegetable oil or fat in order to reduce cost. Okay. What food analysis tests will be involved in this process? Your name first? Lauren?
Yes.
Yeah.
Potentially moisture content, how they differ.
Yes, that's a good, yeah, moisture content, how they differ. But let me just tell you, if you have margarine, for example, with its vegetable fat, oftentimes it's 20% moisture to simulate butter, which is 20% moisture. But a good call, huh?
Do you use something to check for the emulsion?
What's that?
Something to check for emulsifier?
Yes, how does the butter get emulsified differently than vegetable oil? Very good. Okay, what else?
Checking if vegetable fats are probably more unsaturated.
Ah.
Checking rancidity over shelf life.
Awesome. That's excellent. That's one big concern. Yes, when you have vegetable oil, oftentimes it's unsaturated or at least have a degree of unsaturation, which is less stable than saturated fat. And we will have a lab on fat characterization where you're going to test the impact of unsaturated fat on shelf life. Yes, another one. Did you say your name the first time?
Yeah, my name's Ted. I'm on the roster as Alexander, but I go by Ted.
Ted. Oh, okay.
Would you
So
also-
Alexander is Ted. It's okay.
Would you test for portions of like omega-6 versus omega-3?
Yes, definitely. If you want to claim a health claim, yes, you would. So another impact butter versus vegetable oil or vegetable fat would have is on texture and sensory, which we won't be doing in this class, but it's again a food analysis type of analysis. Okay. Evaluate new process. You don't. One thing I want to mention is we have a course packet, and I forgot to say that at the beginning, and I probably mentioned it in the email yesterday. Cindy helped me put this together. It's basically my lecture notes. You may or may not want to buy it. The only thing is I do update my slides. So you might find that I have slides out of order. This is an addition. It wasn't in your slides if you have this book. So yeah, so you might find slight differences, but it's great to have it if you don't want to print lecture notes every time. But there will be updates, and if there are updates, I tend to put the updated version on Moodle. Anyway, so this is not in one of the slides here, but I just put it this morning. So to give you an example about evaluating new processes. So you are in charge of soy flour production at a plant. And the soy flour is rich in protein. It's about 40% to 50% protein. And you're in charge of that soy flour and its quality. And I didn't put in there, but this soy flour gets sold for yeast fermentation application. Okay? And then what happened is you installed, or the management decided to install a new cooker in the product line. You need to cook the soy flour for safety to reduce the trypsin inhibitor or inactivate trypsin inhibitor. So there is a cooking step that you have to do. So what they did in this example is they replaced an old one with a new one in the hopes to reduce time, control temperature better. What food analysis test will be involved in this case to ensure product quality? Go ahead, what's your name?
So you would probably want to test for the amount of the trypsin inhibitor left in the product to make sure that it's not.
Excellent. Good. What else? You want to state your name for their sake.
Stephanie, you probably want to recheck the protein content to make sure it wasn't hurt by having higher temperature. You want to make sure it was safe.
You're right on part, it's not the protein content. The protein content will not be affected. The protein quality will be affected. So absolutely. So rich in protein, you change the cooking temperature and time, you're going to damage your protein. They might get denatured, they might polymerize, and they might not be digested anymore by the yeast. So yeah, and other things, simple things like color is going to change. It's going to get darker, it's going to get lighter by changing the temperature and time. So you might impact color as well. Because you have free glucose in soy flour, small amount, reducing sugar, and you have protein, they can have Maillard reaction. Yeah. Product complaints, and there are tons of examples of product complaints, and here's one. So you have a cereal-based pellet being sold to various customers. Each customer will process the pellet into snack food. Oftentimes could be fried. In this case, it is fried, and then packaged. The customer complained that the finished product was rancid. So they came back to you and told you it's your fault, your pallets, there's something wrong with the pallets. So you obtain packages of the product from the customer. What might be the reasons for the problem? What would you measure to help identify the cause? Of course, you want to defend yourself first. Go ahead, Riley.
They're potentially stored incorrectly by the user, potentially because of the product that they received versus they didn't do that.
So storage issue is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we want to think storage, how would they, if they got a package, how would they determine if it's a storage problem?
Test the moisture content or
Let's think, what might cause rancidity? Not just Riley, anybody else. What might cause rancidity? Okay, that's one. And what would happen to the free fatty acid and unsaturated fat? Right? Oxidized. So there is a problem of oxidation. So if there is a problem of oxidative rancidity, they might want to look for package permeability of oxygen to see if the package is permeable to oxygen. And if it is, then they would definitely check for oxidative products. And there are a lot of different assays that you would do to determine oxidative rancidity. One other thing, I told you it's a fried product. So what should they get? What's the company that produces the pellet? What samples should they also seek? Yes, they should check their frying oil to see what's the level of free fatty acid in the frying oil. Has it been used multiple times? What is the oxidative state of the frying oil? And the hydrolytic rancidity state of the frying oil. So now we're looking at package, we're looking at the oil, we want to ask them how they stored these packages, the storage room, humidity in the room, the temperature in the room. So they have to kind of go back and investigate before they say whether or not it's their pellet. They can also get their original lot number pellet and test it for oxidative rancidity or hydrolytic rancidity. But they really have to look at things from multiple angles to kind of reach to the conclusion it's our fault or their fault, or where is the problem. Here's an example of food forensics. So you are a researcher in an ingredient company. One of your customers, which usually the ingredient company, the customers are the food processors, not your consumers, not you. So they send you a product formulated with one of your ingredients and tells you there is a sharp foreign matter in the product. Of course, it's your fault. There is a sharp foreign matter in the product. Okay, so first of all, what would be your approach to identify the foreign matter and how it got into the product? That's the entire chapter on this. Your name first, please? Bailey.
You check like equipment to see if anything's like corroding or if there's any like issue with your like pipes.
Yeah, definitely you want to check for the equipment and all, but first you want to identify this chart matter. You want to know what it is, Riley?
Use a magnet sequence
Huh?
Use a magnet.
One way of doing that, if we want to think of analytical tools, what would we use? Peter, huh? Okay, so we're getting close. We can do IR, but if we want to do something that we can visually see, magnified, microscopy. Okay, so you will do different types of microscopy, like electron microscopy, SEM, CLSM, confocal laser microscopy, scanning microscopy. So there are different types of microscopy. There's a whole chapter. I'm not going to cover it, unfortunately, in the class. We need 2 semesters to finish all the chapters in this book, but they're there if you're curious. Compete. Obviously, this will be my last example, a couple of minutes here. A competitor launched a new product. It's always the case. And you wanted to compete. What would be your approach and what types of analysis might be needed?
Tiffany.
Yeah.
I guess first you would want to, I don't know if you do this first, but you want to see the consumer's reaction to see if they like the current product.
Consumer studies are always perfect. Yeah, we're not going to do that in this class, but that's a good answer. But if you want something you're going to do in this class, you're getting warmer, looking at their ingredient list, but you can be even more sneaky.
You look at the nutrition facts.
Get the nutrition facts, get the ingredient list, and be even more sneaky. You can do that, but before you do that, huh?
Just find the recipe.
How do you find the recipe? Yeah, using the Tech Wizard program you're going to use next week in lab. I would have been really surprised if somebody had the right answer. But yes, so that would be the first step. Look at the nutrition label, enter the information, enter the ingredients, try to formulate a recipe based on the information that is on the packet. It won't be the exact, it might be close, but definitely you start there, and then you go to the lab and do more of the wet analytical stuff and sensory and consumer acceptability and all of that. Okay, okie dokie, I'm going to stop here. We'll continue with this lecture and start nutrition labeling on Friday.